Hey guys, and welcome back to my second Art of Conquest training video. My name's Dyslexia. I apologize about the quick interruption last time. Apparently I went over a little bit of file size limit on my video. So we're gonna pick up where we left off in the second one here. So in this second video, we're gonna kind of go over your objectives, the best way to keep yourself busy in game, and as well as making sure you're using your resources, etc., the most efficiently. So, to start off, we'll enter our city here. Okay, and we're going to see the things that we focused on as far as prioritizing building. As you can see, these little buildings here, like my moonwell, still level 2. My lumber mill, sawmill, still level 2. As well as my gold, my residence is still level 2. Okay. The reason I don't continue to level these is, one, the amount that they produce is minimal in terms of things. They consume more resources and time that it takes to build these places. So it's best to just kind of steer away from them. Only use them when necessary to gain right here, which is called your prosperity. It's what you need to upgrade your castle. Right. The main things you want to focus on first is obviously your castle. From there, you're going to have things like, let's see if I can find it. I apologize. I just switched to Recon today, so let's see if I can remember. Right here. This would be your guardhouse. This is going to increase your bronze supply limit, your silver, and your gold. So that's a huge one to focus on. From there, you'd be focusing on things like your academy, which is one of the most important. And then, of course, your unit buildings, right? If you're a class and there's just 1 or 2 units that you just don't use, right? So when I play Lich, I never level certain things, like maybe my mummy, or I don't want to say I never level them. I just don't put a lot of time and effort into those buildings because I know I just don't use those units, right? So it could be good if you're trying to get to another castle level to, say, pump out another level in academy, to just focus on the bare minimum that you need, whether it's, for Rakan would be archers and monks. I could probably ignore ninjas a little bit, and as well as maybe turtles or swordsmen, right? So as far as the ecosystem of things, you want to just continue to build, right? You should always, every day, if we come in here into the shop, and this is where a little bit of the pay-to-win aspect comes into the game, but there are 2 things that, if you like a game, you should always support it. So it's okay maybe to dump just a tiny bit of money into it. Everybody's different, but this $4.99 patron right here, and then as well as this subscription service, which is $1.99 a month. The reason being is, one, it's going to increase your building queue, right? So when you're in bed at night, it's continuously building because you've queued up. It'll increase your research queue. It'll give you another free rush for 10 minutes. Your shield timer will go up by 2 hours, and you get 20% faster training, right? And the same thing for patron. It's going to give you along the lines of things. Not only is it going to give you 100 Lunari every day, right, and 3 potions, right? So that Lunari then in turn you can use it to spend on items. All right. When it comes to spending on items, you should always be using your Lunari for these right here, these 30-minute building rushes. Okay, those should be bought every time the shop comes up if you have the Lunari to support it. From there, I usually buy things as far as rare resources. Okay, as you can see, I've purchased a lot of rare resources. Any troop rush timers I'll grab if they're gold. The rest of the stuff, stay away from. If you're buying Lunari, like some people do, do not buy any of this other stuff, right? Sometimes once in a while you'll find a deal healer in here, but never buy, especially like the troops. Okay, the reason being is eventually you can get the troops, okay, but you can't get your Lunari back. So it's not worth just because you want the troop to spend your Lunari on it, when in turn you can more efficiently use it elsewhere. Okay, if you're going to spend Lunari, the best way to do it is by buying sets, or purchasing sets, I should say, if you're spending money. Okay, the heroes are cheaper to buy through here. These sets are pretty pretty efficient money-wise, I guess, if you can say that in terms of a game. But things like Runestone set, very important. Hero ability, hero attribute, depending on what the attribute is. Like this would be magic, so maybe that's not the greatest. Hero XP. Okay, the transmutation set, all these other sets, they're useless. Okay, you're just wasting money at that point because resources are very easy to come by. Battle set, it's not really that bad either. I mean, stamina potions are limited, so it's not a bad investment. But the thing is, for this $5, you get 300 Lunari, right? So if I go to my Lunari right here, and I'm looking at $5, I get 300 Lunari for $5 right here. Well, why would I not just spend the same amount of money and get all these other perks? Okay, makes no sense at all. Especially as well as these chests. These chests, in my opinion, are the biggest Lunari waste of money that there is, right? 100 chests is going to cost you around 3,000 Lunari. That's basically, in terms of things, almost $50. It's a little less than $50, but huge waste of money. Okay. If there is a certain hero that you just don't see coming up in sets, I can understand. But as you see, I have not bought Bane yet. I haven't opened any Bane chests. But I know that Fenris usually doesn't show up in the sets, so I purchased him through the chests. But I go and I spend $100 to get a champion versus just going into my set and, spending the $60. These bundles are never good. I mean, when you first start the game, they're like $9, and then they go up to, I believe, $50. So those are okay, but these $99 ones for 3,600 Lunari, just not good. As well as these bundles right here. They're never really efficient. So, to stay efficient at the store, remember, just always spend your Lunari on speed-ups. That's pretty much it. Some sets, etc. All right, moving on from there, we will now go into your Abyss. You want to make sure that this is something that you're staying on top of daily. This is your dragon, actually, and as far as progress goes. As for abilities, you want dragon abilities like this, right? So this greater treasure gives me 10% increased research speed. Okay, I get it higher enough, and I get prolongs the free building rush timer by 5 minutes. Doesn't sound like much, but 5 minutes is pretty big. And then the other abilities you really want to focus are these ones in orange, these blessed ones. They're divine abilities. Okay, so say for instance this blessed ferocity, right? It's increasing the attack speed or the attack of friendly units. This one is increasing the attack of ranged units. This one's a fortitude, so health. Okay, every dragon has its unique perk at the end, pretty much. This one's a greater undead, so depending on what opponent you're fighting against, this ability is either good or just doesn't do anything. Obviously, for instance, if I'm fighting a lich who runs skeletons, this would be good. But most lich don't run skeletons that much, so it's not that great. So I don't invest too much of my time into this ability. You always want to try and progress your dragon over putting too much investment into your abilities, but you kind of want to have a little bit of a balance. Let's see here. Moving on from here, we have our transmutation. Okay, it is always better to not batch, right? The reason being is that if you hand do it, okay, you have a chance to, let's see if I can get it to proc, but so you see I 2 times yield there. Okay, so now I got 80. If I go and I batch, right? I'm not yielding any more. Okay, I'm getting the minimum out of it. So while batching is nice, that way you don't have to sit there and do it. It's always better to do it by hand. Okay. Make sure that any equipment that you have, as you can see, I have some locked here because they have high command on them. Ones that have high command that you maybe use for your second set, or ones that you're using on your heroes, or ones maybe that you're saving for heroes that you might get. Make sure you lock them. Okay, it's a great feature. And from here, you can also level your artifact as well. We'll back out of that. So, moving on to, let's see, actually, I just got something to show up in the shop here. I guess the chests have changed. It went from Vega to and Valari now. Okay. So we have our quests that you're going to want to keep on up every time they pop up. I know not all of us spend our life on games. Some of us are a little bit more dedicated than others, but anytime these are popped up, you're going to want to continually do them. The reason being is because it resets the timer as soon as you do it. So the more you're keeping in track of them, one, the more honor you're getting out of it, okay, and two, the more resources, etc. As far as your activity goes, you want to make sure you're doing this daily and getting all the items that you can out of it. Try and do as much as you can out of these. Okay, some of them, early game, you might not be able to deploy a dragon or do a dragon raid. So, going back, we're going to talk about stamina farming. Right. So a lot of people will notice in this game, stamina is hard to come by. It's one of the things that you really can't buy. I mean, you can in the shop once in a while, but it's one of the only limits of the game, really. So what I do is I just continuously cruise around the map. I look for any open potion slots, or sometimes if when I'm bored and just trying to be efficient in the game, I'll go after camps that have certain items in them. Either they have an item, or they have a recovery potion, or a mana potion. Reason being is, say I attack this group right here. Let's see if we get lucky. And what we'll do is we'll use Teodrin because she's good against undead. We'll put her in the corner here because what will happen is in the mechanics of the game, these guys will try and walk to attack her. As you can see, they're just continuously taking damage the entire time. And they're dead. Okay. So now, in order to be efficient with my stamina, okay, I attack that unit. I used 1 stamina. Okay. Now, at the end of the raid, I may get lucky and I may have plundered a stamina potion. So if I don't, when I'm farming, what made that worth it for me to use mana? Well, it could be that gear I just got. It could be a rare resource. It could be a mana potion or a recovery potion. You just have to remember that whatever you're doing as far as using stamina goes, you're being efficient with it. And when you're farming, you're always trying to look for stamina pots first, obviously. But little caches like this, like here I would get rubies. I would also get a helm and some gold. Right? So it's not a horrible trade. Right? You're going to want to use the heroes that have the most stamina, and then as well as you're going to want to use the heroes that can easily clear it with only using 1 hero. So if you're going to use some heroes and troops, that's fine too, but you should never have to have your troops die, and you should never have to use more than 1 hero. Okay. Speaking of that, in your daily quests, a lot of people will go, let's say here I go to Mosin Ruins. We'll just mosey along down there. She's moving rather slow today. Okay, so a lot of people use this pillage ability. Okay. The thing is that there's always an opportunity to level your hero. So instead of using the pillage, I would want to attack, and I would want to look into my heroes. That one, I can sacrifice a lot of. I don't have to worry about using stam on. So say Gazul here. Okay. He has 5 stam, but as you notice, he's the lowest of the group. Okay. So he's a level 16. All right. So if I just use him and I put 2 units out, I now am giving him XP. The thing is that if I didn't do that, I would just pillage, clear the actual camp, and there would be 0 experience earned. Now I have a chance of getting experience as one of the experience cards, but why use that on this hero that I don't use much? We'll just throw this out here to get this out of the way. It's gone. Okay, good. So now, while I did use a stamina, I did increase experience, which actually as soon as I level up, I will have more stamina. So it's a catch-22. You want to make sure that you're efficiently farming. Moving on. Let's see. I think this... Oh, we got some more bargain bundles here. Okay. Now we'll go into formations. Let me see what the length of this video is. Okay, we're still good. I just want to make sure that it's not going to cut off. All right. As far as formations go, everybody pretty much has the same type of setup. Okay. Whether I'm PvP or I am PvE, I need to change based on that. So, for instance, if I'm PvP, what I would probably do is I would go along the lines of something like I'd put my tanks up front. Now, if you notice in the middle here, these 3 little spots, I have a gap in my formation now. Okay. What I usually like to do is I move my gap to the right. Some people you can move it to the left, depending. But the reason being is what happens is when you have a gap, especially at sieging, these 2 units are going to tend to go to the left, and these 2 guys are going to tend to go to the right. So now you have this split. And if you have like really important units right in the middle here, or say you have a siege that doesn't move at all in the middle, now all of a sudden you're going to get these guys focused by the wall, right, or by other troops. So you're leaving this opening and creating this damage to the units that's just really not necessary. So what you do is you grab these guys, you move them over to the left or the right, and then you fill in this right side so it doesn't have a gap with things like a tank. Okay, so for instance, I would put, if I'm doing PvP and I'm going to use my dragon, I'd say put my units along the lines of, move this back. I'd move this guy here. Now Jax is going to be my highest damage unit, so I'm going to hide him behind the dragon, because in order to get to him, they're going to have to kind of go through the dragon. I would put a tank here. I'd put maybe another tank here. And then, since I'm going to have these guys probably taking the most damage, I'm going to go with Teodrin because she can actually throw off heals. Let's move this guy back here. Okay. From there, I'm going to fill in my backline units now. So say, for instance, I put these guys. I put maybe a turtle in the middle. I'm going to put another unit there. Okay. You want to use every hero you can. The reason being is your troops are going to be stronger with more heroes than they are with more troops and less heroes, due to that stat buff. So, for instance, if I want to push along the left side, I'm going to put like maybe a rogue Fenris. Okay, I'll put maybe Gon. All right, and then from there maybe I'll put a tank or 2. Okay. You're going to want to have a pushing side, and you're going to want to have a side that you can kind of sustain the damage with, because it's hard to focus on both sides in the battle. So it's better than, so save this side, maybe I'll have Avalon, since he'll buff my troops, and then I'd have Mako, and then I'm going to have Vega, right? And I'll probably throw Grims into here. Okay, so as you can see, pretty quickly I created a nice little PvP setup. Okay, pretty standard. If you're rolling human, okay, you'd probably want to put horses in the front here, right? What I do is I put horse. I put a spearman. The reason I put a spearman either on the left or the right here is because then that spearman can actually throw spears to the left and can throw a little bit to the right. Okay, if I go and put my spearman here, I'm only kind of hitting this little area right here, which in the middle I have a chance of hitting other horses that come through as well as heroes sometimes. Behind them, excuse me, behind the horses and spearmen, I'd put my archers, and then I would load my back line up with heroes. Okay, and it's the same thing with any other race, right? If I'm Lich, I'd have my scorpions in the front. I'd kind of have the thing you have to remember is with large units, your heroes have trouble getting around. So some Lich players, they'll go and they'll load spiders all in this second line here. Okay, the heroes, the tanks and stuff, are just going to get stuck behind those spiders. They'll all take forever to walk around, and it could mess up your abilities and everything else like that. All right, so it's best to create some gaps. Say I'm going for more of a sieging setup. Okay, I'm going to do kind of along the same lines. I usually don't roll with a dragon, but I'm going to put my front line out. Here instead, I'm going to line my heroes up like this. Once again, putting my tanks to protect my heroes that are going to be most beneficial to the fight, right? So I got my Teodrin here. And I'd probably put my Fenris in the corner to help push. Okay. And then from there, I'd throw... Usually what I would do is I'd throw a siege weapon here. I'd throw a turtle in the middle. Okay. If you don't have turtle, obviously, you're going to throw, something along the lines of another siege weapon if you want. You could take this out of the mix and put siege weapon here. And then from there, you'd start just filling up with your ranged units. Oops, let's get my ranged units here. Right. You notice you might not be able to place much. Especially due to the fact that you have these big siege units here. So I have these little units that can kind of fill in those little gaps. Every race has them. But your ultimate goal is, once again, you're going to put your heroes out, right? You want to maybe put a big tank in the corner there, that little gap right there. You put your rogue over there. You put your Grims, who has the abilities of siege damage. Gone, what you're going to want to do is, if you notice... Okay, what we were talking about before is Jax and Gon have sieging abilities, right? So you notice I don't have a siege weapon over here. I don't need one. The reason is because Jax can do massive amounts of damage to the wall. Okay, so he'll clear troops out really quickly off of it, so I don't waste putting a siege weapon there. So, and I can move Gon over here, and then I can use his ability as well, which allows me to fill in maybe another troop right here. Okay, and then I add my healer, and I add my Avalon. All right. Now, when initiating a battle, say it's a siege battle. I mean, it's pretty standard for me. I'm gonna fight them. Okay. More than likely, if I'm humanoid or lich, I'm gonna roll off with my Favor of the Sun God first. Then I'm going to start just knocking off my abilities as Rakan. I'm going to try and heal my front line to keep my front line alive. You want to keep your front line alive as much as possible, as well as your back line, right? Obviously, your back line is very important as well. But so when you're focusing on a siege battle like that, you're just wanting to throw off the abilities to keep your troops alive, right? Don't start an ability and start throwing off damaging spells and all this other stuff. Throw off the stuff that's going to keep your guys alive. Then, if you're having problems pushing through areas, you follow up with a mage or you follow up with jacks, etc. Right? You're going to be more successful and lose a lot less troops if you're trying to mitigate the damage first versus trying to just blow through everything, which then you're going to be like, well, why are all my troops dead? Well, because you went and used a mage ability and all your troops got wiped out by more powerful troops. Okay? Always focus on things like that. So for PvP, we had our setup before with the dragon. In PvP, your main focus is going to be reacting to what the other player does. Okay? Don't ever just start throwing stuff off like in sieging. Okay, see what the other player does. If he's ice blasting you right away, what am I going to do? I'm probably going to use boosted healing from Vega with heal on my troops that he's focusing on. One, they're taking 35% less damage because of the boosted healing little bubble, and they're getting healed. So they're not losing morale. They're not getting wiped out. The reason I do that over maybe favor of the sun god is because it's a targeted area. Okay, in favor of the sun god, I'm going to save if I see my troops are still living, and since it's reduced speed, usually not that much damage has been put into them. Okay, great. Now, so he used that ability. So what are you going to do to counter that, right? So maybe you're going to do something along the lines of trying to knock down his front line more because now he's just trying to focus on your back line. So what am I going to do? Either I'm going to next follow up with favor of the sun god, or I can use my gone roots to root the entire front line. So they're taking continuous damage and they're missing every so often attacks. Or maybe I'll do it on his back line. You just always got to react to whatever the other player is doing. You don't always need to use your entire army. If you're fighting a lesser player, you should know what your heroes do. Like if I'm fighting these guys right here, if this was a player, and I would come up, I'd be like, all right, well, I know I can get them to damage over time. Okay, and the mechanics of the game are what's going to happen as soon as I hit start. All of these guys are going to walk slow as hell over to her. Okay, so they're all just going to clump together. All right, well, now that they're clumping together, I can maybe use Gone, right, to root them all up. Or I can use Jax to use an ability on them. Or if I want to just use one character, maybe I'd use like a heal tank. Like, so say let's do Fenris. I'm going to make sure they get all grouped together. As you can see, they're all moving in, right? Now Fenris, his wolf's heal, so obviously he's kind of like a heal tank. So I can go in, and as they funnel in, I'm just attacking them. Right? So you have to remember of the mechanics of the game, okay? These units are always going to attack melee units first, and then they're going to move on to ranged units, what's left. Same difference if I were to throw, say I put Gon out here, and I throw out, they're all coming to him, but then I throw out a Trent. Now some of them may continue to come to him because of the way they were already pathing, but as you can see, the majority of them are going over to the Trent. And maybe I can hold these guys here. You can make things work with almost every hero. So now maybe I got to get some of these guys off of me. Now, obviously, I might not be able to make this happen, but you get the point. Any hero can achieve stuff. Okay, so just remember you're wanting to utilize the least amount of heroes when you're farming, and think of the mechanics and what they're going to do. For wall defenses, for instance, let's go over here. Okay, you're going to want to make sure you're always keeping your formation updated. Okay, and always, 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 always. If you notice, I don't really have that many gold going on. I'm just constantly cycling them in and out. Okay, I'm continuously putting them on my wall. Okay, if I look at my formation here, and this goes for every race, right? I have my ranged up here. So the humans that put priests up here, big no-no. Okay, you want to put your highest damage units up here. And then I'm putting whatever unit is good for my front line. If I'm Lich, I'm having Scorpions and Ravagers in my formation. The reason you use Ravagers for your wall is because you're going to have an abundance of those resources. They're cheap to manufacture, and they have a chance of resurrecting when they're on the wall. Okay, if I'm Rakan or if I'm human, I'm putting probably utilizing a little bit of horses, but mostly spearmen and footmen. Right. The reason being is because spearmen are automatically going to throw off the spears at the start of the battle, as your archers are just pelting away at them. Right. And you can probably have a line of horses behind them, more charge range, and then archers on the ground. So you want to keep it tight knit. Every little area should be filled, as you can see. There's some that you might not. If you have things going on like this, as you can see, once again, I didn't do the gap in the middle. I kept my gap to the side. In terms of things, most people are going to focus this side here, right? I don't know what it is. It just seems that everybody wants to focus either on the middle or this side. So this side can be a little bit, that's why I push it off a little bit to the side. But I keep a space in between my crossbowmen here, okay? For fear of what sometimes happens is these guys will just start marching over towards this way with this, and it would leave basically just these guys in this turtle in the middle. Oops. So I put them closer to here in hopes that they kind of focus on in this side, right? And then while, what are they? While ninjas aren't the best, it's still free resources. I'm going to put them down here because they are a lot more hardier than archers, okay? And in fact, it might not be so bad to kind of switch it like this. Reason being is they can take more damage than the archers can. Archers have longer range, or the crossbowmen have longer range, and they have piercing bullets. So it's not a bad thing to actually have these guys behind, probably. Once you're done, save your formation. You can create multiple formations, okay? And it's not a bad idea, too. Okay. I'm going to have to go back because I don't want that to save. We'll go back in here real quick. We'll swap this back around. But it's a good idea to have multiple formations. The reason being is because if your garrison doesn't have any more of these troops left, okay, it's just going to start throwing random stuff on your wall, and that's not what you want. Okay, because it may put these mechs in there, it may throw in samurais, which samurais are not that great on the wall for the sheer fact of the poison, because they take poison damage, whereas monks don't. So it's always better to have as many formations as you can. We'll save this. As far as your void goes, you're going to want to make sure that you're doing that every single day, as well as your abyss. Right? You want your abyss to be efficient, and you want to make sure that you are grabbing as many resources as you can, and also progressing as far as you can in the abyss. Don't ever ignore void or the abyss. Okay, you get tons of resources out there. You get patterns. You get eggs. I mean, there is no reason you should not be doing them. So that kind of wraps up this little tutorial. I may add some more in the future, but for now, yeah, that's about it. So enjoy, guys, and if you have any questions, you can just ask them in the comments, or you can kind of, ask them in game. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.